Hello, and welcome to Art Conspiracy. I'm Amy, and I am here to talk about one of my favorite topics in the world, art supplies, particularly watercolor supplies for the beginner. Uh, Art supplies can be very overwhelming. There's a gazillion choices, and it can really be kind of mind-boggling. And I also want to caution you, it can also be very addictive. For me, I go into art supply store, even look at a catalog or look online, and I feel like a kid in the candy store. Um, anyway, I'm going to try to keep it pretty simple for you. This is strictly for beginners, and I'm going to stick to watercolor and keep it, as I said, keep it simple. So here we go. Okay, switch to my other screen. Okay, let's start with paint. For beginners, I would start with a simple pan kit. These are pan watercolors as opposed to tube watercolors, which I'll show you that, but I'll talk about them in a second. Pan watercolors are great. You know, they come in an assortment of colors. You got a little brush with it. You have a little mixing tray. It's pretty convenient. You can also get little tiny ones. I'd get one that's a decent size here. So I think that's good to start with. If you do go with tubes, you need to figure out which colors you need, which you need more guidance. You need to have a mixing tray, and those are separate. And so it's a little bit more complicated, and your brushes, you don't have a place to carry them and so forth. So this would be when you get a little bit more serious. I hear my dog barking at the gate. I'm going to pause for a second, and I'll be right back. There she is. Say hi to the people, Lou. She's not interested. Okay, hold on. Okay, so while we're on the topic of paint, I want to mention something about the idea of quality, which is important. This goes for paint, this goes for brushes, this goes for paper. Quality does matter. If you buy cheapo art supplies, it's really going to have an adverse effect on how well your pieces turn out, and maybe even how frustrated you might get as a beginner. Having said that, I recommend getting medium priced supplies. Don't get the cheapest stuff, but don't get the most expensive stuff either, because you might feel like the paint is precious. You're afraid to use it because you spent so much on it, and paper and brushes particularly can be very, very pricey. So I say start in the middle. And when it comes to paint, when you buy your pan set in particular, I think a good measure of whether or not it's a quality brand is, does it tell you what colors they are? Like, it'll give you the names of the colors. For me, that's a marker that it's not just a super cheapo kindergarten brand, but it's a little bit better. So see if it's labeled with the actual names of the colors. Okay, moving on to brushes. This is the brush that came with my kit. It's pretty tiny. So I highly recommend, I hope my video's working. It looks like it's frozen. I highly recommend treating yourself to a big flat brush and a big round brush. There's basically two kinds of brushes. Flat ones that have an edge like this, that look like a square, and round ones that have this kind of a point, and they're round. And as you can see, I have 3 different sizes of the flats and 3 different sizes of the rounds. And this is perfectly adequate for most of the things I want to do. This flat one is about an inch. It is an inch wide, and that's really good. So get yourself one of these. And then this is a little bit smaller, and then teeny tiny. So that's what you want to get. Now, traditionally, watercolor brushes have a short handle. Acrylic or oil painting brushes have a long handle. So it doesn't really matter what the handle is, but just know that, as a guide for when you're going into the store and there's too many choices, and remember what I said. Okay, on to paper. Paper is another one of these things that is really important to consider in terms of quality, because the truth is, watercolor is water, and if you get cheap paper wet, it'll buckle and the paint won't move and it'll drive you crazy. There's 3 different kinds of watercolor paper. There's hot press, which is smooth. There's cold press, which is a little bit rougher. And then there's rough, which is the roughest. And you can decide, experiment and see what kind of paper you like. I personally like it smooth because I like to create the illusion of texture rather than having the whole paper have a texture that I'm kind of stuck with, regardless of whether I'm painting sea or sky or a person but that's up to that's up to you what you want to do. The paper also comes in weight, and a good medium weight paper for a beginner is 140 pounds. So look for that. Anyway, yeah, that's good. And you can get a pad that it rips out like this, or you can get a bound pad that's got rings on it. This is my nice pad. Up to you how you want to get that. And also this is a good size, like 8.5 by 11, 9 by 12. Don't get teeny tiny and don't get huge. Again, we're going the middle of the road with our art supplies. Okay, going back to my other window, there's some extra things that I want to recommend. I always have a little squirt bottle. I like to prime my colors. I kind of squirt them before I start, and then they're all ready to go, and it's easier on my brushes too. You're gonna need, I have like a little terry cloth towel that I have for blotting water from my brushes. And I also use it to roll up my brushes when I take them out. There's a lot of fancy kind of brush holders and stuff, but this works pretty good. And then I tie it up with a little string. Tissues, very important. Tissues to blot paint, blow your nose. Baby wipes are a great all-purpose art supply to have. Clean up when you're not near a sink. You need something for water. I have this little portable, this thing is so cool. I got this in Thailand, so you probably can't find it, but it's a little stacking thing for your water holders, which is great. Anyway, just a yogurt cup is fine for at home. So anyway, I think that's it. I think that's it for basic supplies. I mean, obviously you need like a little, pencil, an eraser, and maybe a pencil sharpener. Have fun buying your art supplies. I mean, for me, this is the tools of the trade are one of the most fun things about art. I love my supplies, and I'm always shopping around. But again, with watercolor, get medium quality. If you want a recommendation for a brand or anything specific, feel free to write me. I'll be happy to give you specific information in terms of what to buy. I think you can get started for under $100. That would be my thing. I think the kind of kit that I'm looking at is maybe $45 to paint. And then with paper and brushes and the rest of the stuff's pretty cheap. You can probably get in for under $100, just to give you an idea. So there you go. If you are a beginner and you're shopping for art supplies, welcome to the world of watercolor. Have fun with it. It's a wild ride. Watercolor is just a fun medium. It looks like it's really easy, but it's actually kind of tricky. So don't be discouraged. Take a class. Look at other people doing watercolor. There's a lot of terrible watercolors out there, but there's also a lot of good stuff going on. So find your way, find your voice. And I will see you. I'm going to have some Wabi Sabi watercolor classes or some tips and tricks available. So check out the videos, and I will see you soon. Artconspiracy.net. Happy painting.